Today I'm going to show you how to make some crispy Italian Parmesan crackers. These things are packed full of flavor, but you can always customize them any way you like. Here are your ingredients, but don't worry, I'll include a link below that will give you nutrition information, more details, and ways that you can make these your own. You're going to start out with 2.5 cups of flour, which is 375 grams. To that, we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning, 3 grams, and 1 teaspoon of salt, which is 5 grams. Now, if you're using salted butter, you may want to skip the salt and add it later on top of the crackers if you need to. We're going to add in 1/2 cup of butter, which is 113 grams, and I've cubed it. You would want it to be a little bit cold, but it doesn't have to be ice cold. It can be pliable because you're going to chill this later. And you're just going to rub this in between your fingers like this until you get it nice and breadcrumbs, like this. You can also do this in a mixer. It is perfectly acceptable. Now we're going to add in our eggs, which is 2 eggs or 100 grams, and I like to use a knife to cut them in, and it just makes it a lot easier and less messy. You can use your hands, and again, you can use a mixer to do this. Once you get that in, you're going to add in 1/4 cup of water, 60 milliliters, but I'll recommend that you use 1 tablespoon at a time because if your butter is really soft, you might not need the entire amount of water. Once you get all the water combined, start squeezing together the dough. If it starts coming together, don't add any more water just yet. Squeeze it together until you get a really rough ball like this. It will pull apart really easily. Next, we're going to add in 3 tablespoons of tomato pesto sauce, which is about 45 grams. You might find some that says sun-dried tomato or some that just says tomato pesto. And you can use also just the pesto with the pine nuts. That tastes lovely as well. And you're just going to knead this in until it's nice and pink throughout the entire dough. It takes about a minute. You will have it look like this, and again, it will still be pulling apart really easily. Next, you want to add in your Parmesan cheese, 1/2 cup or 85 grams. And if you can't find the grated kind, or if you can't grate your own, you can use the stuff in the can. I won't judge you on this. Just knead it until it's nice and smooth and makes a ball like this. Now you don't want to roll this immediately. You want to let this rest at least a half hour, an hour, even 2 hours. That keeps it from being very difficult to roll out because when you first have it fixed, it's going to want to just bounce back and it's not going to want to work with you. Now it's very crumbly still. That's the way this is supposed to be. We're going to flour our work surface with about a tablespoon of flour or 9 grams. And you can use as much or as little as you need to throughout this process because everybody's a little bit different when it comes to rolling. I also like to sprinkle a little bit of flour onto my rolling pin. And I like to divide this in half, that way it's easier to roll out. You could divide it into thirds or even quarters. It's really up to you. Just set it aside, and if you're going to take a long time, I just recommend covering up that other piece of dough so it doesn't dry out and get hard. Now we're going to just roll this up and then down and then make a 1/4 of a turn and then just do it again. And as you get used to doing this, you can do it more or less, but I recommend up and down once and then turning it so it doesn't stick to your surface, and you can flip it over on occasion. And you want to roll this out until it is between 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch, 1 to 3 millimeters. And the thinner you make it, the crispier your crackers will be. Now I'm just going to put this on a baking sheet with a piece of parchment paper layered in between each of them. And this just makes it easier to chill it in a little bit. Chilling down the dough makes them more crispy and more layers in between the crackers. I recommend at least a half hour, but you can chill it up to 2 days in advance. If you do chill it more than a half hour, cover it with some saran wrap so it doesn't dry out the dough. Before you're ready to bake it, preheat the oven to 350 or 180°, and then you're just going to cut out the crackers. I'm using a 3-inch, which is a little over 7 centimeters, but you can use a 2-inch or a 5-centimeter circle. You can use actually any shape you like, any size you like. You just want to keep an eye on it if you make them smaller than this because it might take less time in the oven. For instance, it could take 8 minutes instead of 10. And you're just going to place these on a cookie sheet with either you're going to flour it or you're going to use parchment paper again, and you want to space them about 1/2 inch apart, which is about 1.25 centimeters. And then if you have scraps like this, you can roll it up again and make more. Bake them 10 to 15 minutes or until they're golden brown. If you like, you can do an egg wash on top or even some olive oil to make them really crispy. They will look really nice and they should snap very easily like this. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. Visit us at jacksonsjob.com for more, and as always, happy baking.